It was a gloomy, rain-soaked morning in the city, the kind that made people clutch their coats tighter and hurry from one doorway to another. The streets shimmered with a fine layer of drizzle. The air held a damp, chilly bite, and the windows of the small, inviting diner were misted with the comfort of warmth inside. Through those foggy panes, the world outside moved slowly. Cars glided by, their wipers moving in steady rhythm, while umbrellas bobbed along the sidewalks like colorful mushrooms drifting through the mist. Inside, tucked away in a red leather booth in the far corner, sat an elderly man, slightly hunched forward, his hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee. His gray hair, though still full, was untamed, and his coat bore the weary look of many winters. A dab of oatmeal, or something like it, clung to his shoulder, a sad little reminder of misfortune. His trousers were worn at the knees, marked with faded stains from stories long past. His face carried the quiet expression of someone who had not only grown used to being ignored, but had come to expect it. Claire had seen many weary faces pass through that diner. At just 25, she'd already learned to read people, not from habit or suspicion, but out of a deep-rooted empathy. She could easily tell the regulars from the drifters, the struggling college students from the solitary retirees, the playful salesmen from the single mothers hoping for a few peaceful minutes. But the man at table 6, he didn't fall into any usual category. He wasn't fixated on a phone or reading the newspaper. He simply sat there, hands cupping his coffee, gazing at the swirling cream in it like it held a question he couldn't quite answer. Claire, with her neatly tied ponytail and crisp white blouse tucked into her red skirt, approached quietly. There was no rush. Her shift had only just begun. She offered him a practiced smile, the kind she'd taught herself to give, even on days when she felt tired or sad or burdened by the weight of her mother's next hospital bill. "Can I get you anything else, sir?" she asked, her voice gentle but full of warmth. The man looked up, startled, as though he'd just been pulled from a fog. His eyes met hers for a fleeting moment, before drifting back down to the table. "No, thank you. Just the coffee," he murmured. "That's all I can manage today." Claire paused. There was no shame in his voice, no hint of resentment. Just simple, honest truth. She gave a quiet nod and turned back toward the counter. There, she glanced at a sandwich resting under the warmer. Her own wallet barely held $30, but when she looked back at the man in the corner, something in her heart whispered that those few dollars might matter more to him than they ever would to her. Without a word, she took out the bills and tucked them into the register. Then she plated the sandwich, added a fresh pickle slice to the side, and carried it over to his table. The man looked puzzled. "I didn't order this," he said slowly. "I know," Claire replied, setting the plate gently before him. "But you looked like you needed something warm." He blinked, studying her. His face didn't soften right away. He seemed to be trying to figure out if this was a joke, a test, or some kind of mistake. But all he saw in her eyes was simple, genuine kindness. After a moment's pause, his hand slowly reached for the sandwich. "Why would you did that?" he asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. "For someone like me?" Claire gave a small shrug, wiping her hands on her apron. "Because someone once did the same for me when I had nothing. And because kindness, it doesn't cost much." He lowered his gaze to the food in front of him. Something subtle shifted in his expression. His eyes no longer drifted to the window. They met hers, truly met hers. And then he smiled. It was just a faint smile, but it carried a weight she couldn't recognize. What Claire didn't know, how could she, was that this wasn't just an unfortunate old man. He was Leonard Ashcroft, a billionaire, a pioneer in the tech world. A man who could buy the entire diner without blinking at the cost. And yet, here he was, sitting in this humble spot, dressed like someone with nothing. Not because he had to, but because he was searching for something money couldn't buy. He hadn't come for coffee. He had come looking for authenticity, for someone real. And now, he had found her. By the time afternoon rolled around, the rain had stopped, leaving streaks across the windows and filling the air with the soft scent of damp pavement. Claire stood near the counter, her eyes fixed on the folded napkin left behind at table 6. The old man had left quietly, offering just a nod as he walked out. His posture still humble, but carrying a quiet strength it hadn't had before. She hadn't expected a thank you. That's not why she did it. But still, a gentle curiosity tugged at her. She walked over, picked up the empty coffee cup, and noticed an envelope tucked beneath it. It stood out sharply against the faded tabletop, an elegant, cream-colored envelope, completely out of place. No name, just an embossed set of initials on the flap. LAHER. Brows knit in curiosity. Carefully she opened it, expecting perhaps a short note of gratitude, or though unlikely, a few dollars. Instead, she found 2 things. The first, a handwritten note, written in steady, confident script. Kindness is a rare currency. I didn't come today seeking food or comfort. I came looking for something I feared no longer existed. You didn't just serve me a meal. You gave me humanity without knowing who I was. I'd like to return that gift in a way that truly matters. Enclosed is something for you, a gift. No conditions, no obligations. But I hope to see you again, 1 week from now, same table, same time. LACLARE's breath hitched in her throat. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the second item in the envelope, a folded cashier's check. When she saw the number printed on it, she almost dropped it. $50,000. Her heart began to race. She looked around the diner half expecting someone to jump out and say, "It was a prank." She half expected someone to pop out with a hidden camera, that this was all some elaborate prank. But there were no flashing lights, no laughing customers, no clever explanations. Just a quiet miracle tucked inside a napkin. She clutched the envelope to her chest, her mind reeling. $50,000. That was more than a semester of college. More than enough to clear her mother's hospital bills. It meant security. It meant freedom. It meant hope. Her fingers traced the envelope again, but now her eyes lingered on the last sentence of the note. He wanted to see her again. And suddenly, the money wasn't the most important thing anymore. It was the mystery, the man behind the gesture. Who was he really? Why had he come to her diner? Why her? The days crawled by after that. Each shift felt longer than the last. Claire found herself glancing at the door every few minutes, wondering if he would truly come back. Wondering if it had all been some strange, beautiful dream. But he did come back, exactly 1 week later. The bell above the diner door chimed, and in stepped a man she barely recognized. Gone, with a worn-out coat and the stained trousers. In their place, a sharp navy blue overcoat, polished shoes that clicked confidently against the floor, and a poised, graceful posture. His hair was neatly combed back, and though his face still bore the marks of age, it now glowed with quiet strength. Moved with intention, yet with a gentle ease. Until he stood right before her. Claire stood frozen near the coffee machine, her lips parting slightly in stunned silence. Their eyes met. He began, his voice warm and familiar. "I'm sorry for the surprise last time. I didn't properly introduce myself." He extended a hand. Leonard Ashcroft. The name triggered something in her memory. News headlines, magazine covers, TV interviews on business channels. She had heard it before. He was the founder of Arctic, one of the country's wealthiest men. A pioneer in artificial intelligence, a leader in renewable energy, and apparently, someone who left $50,000 in envelopes under coffee cups. "You're that Leonard Ashcroft?" she asked, still trying to process what she was seeing. He smiled. Not with pride, but with humility. "I'm still the same man you served coffee and a sandwich to. The same man you helped, even when you didn't need to." Claire blinked. I didn't know. I thought "I know," he said gently, stepping a little closer. "That's exactly why it meant something to me." He motioned toward the booth. "May I sit?" She nodded, still in a daze. He slid into the seat, and when he looked at her, his gaze held the same depth as it had a week ago. But now, it wasn't guarded anymore. His expression was open, curious, sincere, honest. They talked for hours about life, about their pasts, about the little things that mattered most. They spoke of dreams once held and quietly set aside, of people they had loved and lost, of how the world could be breathtaking and heartbreaking. Both at the same time, Leonard opened up about his late wife, the aching loneliness that had slowly crept into his heart over the years, and his decision to vanish from the spotlight for a while, to see the world as it truly was. No bodyguards, no assistants, just a man in an old coat, wandering through cities, searching for something real. Claire listened intently, sometimes smiling gently, sometimes blinking back the tears his words stirred. She shared stories of her mother, of the scholarship she had given up, of the way some people looked at waitresses, as though they were invisible, fixtures instead of humans. But Leonard never looked at her that way. He saw her. Truly, fully saw her. And in the weeks that followed, he kept coming back. Sometimes he brought books, sometimes just stories, and sometimes just himself. No grand gestures, no extravagance, just presence. Their conversations deepened, and the space between them grew warmer, more electric, not from money, not from sympathy, but from something real. Mutual respect, understanding, affection. As months passed, Claire eventually left the diner. Not because she needed to, but because she was finally ready. She went back to college. She visited the city she had only admired in brochures. She began chasing the life she once put on hold. Leonard never tried to dazzle her with his wealth. Instead, he showed up when it mattered most, steady, genuine. Their bond was never loud or flashy. It was quiet, honest, and deeply real. Then, exactly 1 year to the day after they had first met, Leonard led her back to that very same booth table. 2 steaming cups of coffee waited for them. A breakfast sandwich sat neatly in the middle. Claire laughed as she took her seat across from him. "You're not going to pretend to be poor again, are you?" He grinned, eyes full of warmth. "No," he said, "but I am pretending to be just a man who was lucky enough to meet someone who changed his life over a single cup of coffee." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small box. When he opened it, there wasn't a giant diamond or anything flashy, just a simple, elegant ring. Classic, timeless. "Claire," he said, his voice trembling just slightly, "will you keep reminding me what kindness looks like for the rest of our lives?" Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't hesitate. "Yes," she whispered. And from that day forward, Table 6 wasn't just a booth in a diner. It became the place where two lives were changed forever.